So the WHO wants to have the absolute power to decide what is misinformation.
How are you, my family? Welcome again to Direct TV, bringing to you the truth. Welcome, guys, to this special and wonderful episode of my video today. And right in today's video, guys, I'm still here with the man of God, by person of the highly esteemed Reverend Dr. Chris Oyakhilome, DSC, DSCDD. I usually like bringing you updates or information concerning what is going on in the world directly from our man of God, Reverend Dr. Chris. And last month I actually posted a video, all right, where the man of God, Reverend Dr. Chris, actually spoke about this particular thing that the WHO want to do, all right, which Pastor Chris did mention that they are planning something in the month of May, all right. And in today's video, guys, all right, there is a particular man in the parliament in the United States that's going to be revealing that plan, all right, that they want to do, all right, on May 24th. All right, so this is very, very serious. So for those of you who just think that the world is just just like that, everything is just like that, that's not true. Things are going on. All right, and I thank God for the man of God, Reverend Dr. Chris, who is doing so much and is standing in the gap to make sure that we get this information, guys. So I'd like you to listen as the man of God, Pastor Chris, actually expose and give us a video, all right, concerning what their plan is. And for those of you coming new to my channel, kindly do subscribe button to subscribe. If you have not liked the video, hit the like button, like today's video, guys. Watch this, I'll be right back.
Uh, Melinda Gates, in that place when she was talking with the gentleman, she said, if we save the children, they're just going to keep increasing the population. In other words, we can't do that. We can't save the children. If we save the children, they will worsen the situation by increasing the population. But what did you think the foundations were doing? You thought they came to save the children. But that video was not supposed to be seen, at least not in Africa. So when you understand the African policy of the United States, as clearly stated by Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State, you'd see that it was a policy of population reduction. So you have to understand, it's the policy. It's America's policy for Africa, which means whatever food they endorse or send or sponsor to Africa, whatever drink, and whatever project, it is in their national interest of drastically cutting down population in Africa. And for your information, it's not just a mere reduction to what you might call something convenient. No, it's said to be near zero. To near zero. Understand it?
Okay, my family, just to chip in some things here before you continue the video. All right, it's important that and I can't bring that documentary right here in this video, all right, because there are a lot of several things that was being displayed in that documentary, all right. But I would love you to go to the Pastor Chris data library to search for your love of programs, or you just go to Ciflix app to actually check and see most of those documentaries. So what the Melinda Gates, the wife of Bill Gates, was actually talking about, all right, was stopping the children, all right, the to stop helping children. All right, because children, if you stop helping the children, all right, it will actually also help in the population reduction that they are talking about, guys. So a lot of things. I'd like you to just continue listening to this particular video, and I'll be right back. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Watch this.
Okay. Now, I'd like to show you another brief discussion from a member of parliament in the United Kingdom. Watch this.
The WHO are promoting the influence of private-public partnerships. They promote that on their websites to the point where it's pay to play. Anyone can buy.
Pause for a second, so I just let you understand what this is about. The World Health Organization and their plans to strategically take over the nations of the world, while telling you that it's a global effort against possible pandemics of the future. So they called it a pandemic treaty, which they later modified to a pandemic accord, as though there's much difference. There's a technical difference, because they know that for some countries there are certain things required, certain conditions required for signing a treaty, just because of the semantics. Okay, so they decided to reword it and call it a pandemic accord, which is a synonym for a treaty. These guys play on words and deceive the public. But what's concerning is what's in the treaty, which a lot of people have no clue about. I just want you to hear from this gentleman. Listen.
The WHO are promoting the influence of private-public partnerships. They promote that on their websites to the point where it's pay to play. Anyone can buy influence at the WHO. It's just going to cost you money. And when it comes to when they're consulting, their own internal report, their survey evaluation, final report, May 23, 23rd of May 2022, the various interest groups have more input to the WHO policy than the member states. It said under the WHO's own figures that the member states' only participation was 40% of the input, whereas 60% came from non-member states and 276 stakeholders. So it's clear there's a strong external influence on the policy of the WHO, an entity which, if the amendments to the international health regulations and the pandemic treaty were to be passed, and doing nothing is not an option. If this House does nothing and does not vote, they will come to pass by May 24. So doing nothing is not an option. It isn't going to go away. So the WHO's intermediate study says the WHO is an international organisation created as a sub-agency of the United Nations for the objective of obtaining the highest possible level of health for all people. But at what cost? At what cost? What cost to democracy? What cost to individual freedoms? It is now 80% funded by non-member states, and it is heavily influenced. And it also, during the pandemic, it took extra powers called the fact that it could define information. It took on a position, and this will be enacted in law and binding in those two new instruments, that the WHO has the ability to say what is disinformation. And when anybody says to you that the science is settled on any issue, I suggest that this House would smell a rat straight away, because science is never settled. There is always open for modification, for new things to be discovered, theses to be refined, and what the WHO is saying is that the WHO will be the arbiter of what the science is, and that cannot be right. It's a bit like someone saying the market's changed. Well, in my experience, it never has. So that is a huge grab of power. And the two instruments, the pandemic treaty and the amendments to the international health regulations, are progressing in parallel. And for those who, I just really worry whether colleagues in this have actually read the treaty, because clearly, you know, when you take out the words "not binding" as an amendment, it then becomes binding. You know, these are binding treaties. If we do nothing, these treaties are binding. They're legally binding across all the nations. They're bringing in an idea called One Health. So, and this then extends the ability of the Director General of the W.H.O. to call a public health emergency of international concern, which incidentally is abbreviated to FAKE. FAKE. So, and it says that he can bring it in on the suspicion, the risk of an international incident. It doesn't even have to be about a pathogen that's affecting humans. It can affect animals. He's taking the powers because of the environment, or an increase in the levels of CO2. I suggest that honourable and right honourable members read the treaty. It's a massive extension of powers, and at the drop of a hat, one man, Mr. Tedros, can call for massive powers to the WHO, and not only will he call when he takes the powers, he will decide when the pandemic or the emergency is over, and when he'll possibly give us the powers back to this House, where elected representatives are supposed to be representing the interests of our constituents. Well, that will all be suspended. And I would, while we're talking about Mr. Tedros, I mean, I would just remind the House that this gentleman who will be deciding the fate of the world, it will be within his gift to call these emergencies. The conduct of the WHO in the recent Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where 83 individuals who are working for the WHO sexually abused local women, and including the sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl, and it was all covered up, Mr. Sharma, and in a leaked document from the WHO, which would have been in front of Mr. Tedros' committee, a confidential UN report submitted to the WHO last month concluded that the manager's handling of the case didn't violate WHO sexual exploitation policies because the woman concerned was not a beneficiary of WHO aid since she didn't receive any humanitarian support. That is completely unacceptable. If that's the rules of an organisation that will be deciding whether my constituents are locked down for 6 months, 3 months, and whether they can go and see their granny, I don't think it's acceptable.
Very interesting.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. So the WHO wants to have the absolute power to decide what is misinformation. So what we're talking about previously, the truth police, WHO wants to assume that power. And then on suspicion of what they decide is a health crisis, doesn't have to affect human beings. It can be something about dogs in your country, that the dogs are having a problem, and Mr. Tedros, the Director General, can shut down your country from his headquarters. So the nations, you have to, just like that man said, you have to look at the details. You have to look at the details. The WHO cannot and should not be given such authority. The nations will lose their sovereignty. That's what that document is about. And then another thing I hope you heard was that for the financing of the WHO, all the nations contribute only a maximum of about 40%. The rest of it comes from some others, especially clandestine organizations that you really have to go deep into the details to find who they represent. So they're the ones that actually control WHO, not the nations. So the countries are not going to be consulted about decision making. That should not happen.
All right, my family. There you have it with the man of God, by person of the highly esteemed Reverend Dr. Chris Oyakhilome. Now you've heard it yourself, all right. And I think I believe that some people that watches this my video, or most people that also watch this my video, all right, have some connection to some leaders, all right. So what I want to believe is that if you are a leader, all right, and you know that you have connection to those in place of authority, you have connection to those that make decisions in countries, don't just watch this video and pass, because the life of several other people are in your hands, all right. You must also push to make sure that these documentaries these documents that are being brought to the countries are being studied, all right, before they are being passed, all right, before they are being signed, all right. You have heard what Pastor Chris have said, and the plan of the WHO to gain power to be able to do whatever they like, because this will be beyond. If they are able to get that power, that's why Pastor Chris is pushing that they shouldn't. If they are able to get it, all right, several other things, they'll be able to shut down the nations as they want, all right. This is a more reason that if you are close to those in place of authority, or you are even one that makes decisions, or you are part of the parliament that see through the those documents, make sure that you pay attention and read it, and you push other people to equally see to it that those kinds of documents doesn't go through countries, all right. The things the man of God Pastor Chris usually tells us, they are no joke, all right. They are no joke, and these are all plans of the devil, all right, to actually come before its time, all right. They can do whatever they want, all right, when we are out from here, but while we are still here, they cannot do these things, all right. And that's why we as Christians but make sure that we keep the wall in check to the rapture of the church, guys. Or anyways, I want to thank you for watching today's video, and I want to believe that you were blessed with today's video. And for those of you coming new to my channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and subscribe. And if you haven't liked the video, hit the like button, like today's video, guys. See you in my next video. Bye.